Hello, everyone. It's Pam Bernard from the University of Cambridge, Laura Colucci from the University of Edinburgh, and Carolyn Cook from Open University presenting to you today on performing transdisciplinarity, remattering diffractive making with arts and sciences. And what you see in this slide, this opening slide, is actually a line of flight. And we've all learned to take new lines of flight. This is a Deleuze and Guattarian term, which refers to the indiscernible possibility of escape, the elusive moment when change happens, when a threshold between two is crossed. And this is what we're talking of today, when a threshold between two, sometimes 3 and 4 disciplines are crossed, in which case something new and is authored. And this is this term transdisciplinarity, which we talked about more, as will making with. And making with is a Haraway term, which refers to the co-production of learning. It refers to the intra-action, co-evolution and deterritorializing that happens in transdisciplinary work. So it's making with music, making with arts and sciences, making with mathematical arts, making with science and sustainability. And the evidence we're prepared for you today comes from a number of sources. Firstly, Carolyn Cook's recently completed successfully, no revisions, PhD, which we are delighted and congratulate her for the next year at least, Dr. Cook, and also from a commission, a British Education Research Association commission that Laura Colucci Gray from the University of Edinburgh has successfully led on, winning that money, which with a year's worth of literature reviews, and of course this book that's in front of you here, which looks at how, what, and when making with materials featured in this book and across all of these projects occurs, and why it matters to transdisciplinarity. Laura. And Laura will shortly define transdisciplinarity and why it matters. Thank you.
We take a very particular approach to transdisciplinarity, which is offering us the opportunity to understand it from a posthumanist approach. In terms of posthumanism, we are seeking to challenge universal assumptions about knowledge and the assumptions that come from the humanist tradition that privilege intellectual versus practice or versus intuition. We're seeking to dismantle dualism, and we're seeking to challenge the linear narratives of economic progress, of economic growth, to actually reinstate the rhizomatic, the horizontal, the communitarians. We are compelled to take responsibility for our actions in the world and with the world, for co-constructing educational sustainability and sustainable futures. So drawing on BURNARD, Braidotti, McClure, and large communities of posthumanist authors, we are looking at new words in terms of education and learning, co-constitution, co-ingredients, co-production, and intra-actions to signal that who we are and what we become can never be disentangled from what is around us. Carolyn?
This is yours.
Okay.
But what we see here is a sort of line of flight, a rhizome, which brings science and arts together. And we've presented this slide in various forms. You saw a rhizome to start with in the opening slide. There's this one and another one to follow. And it shows the intra-action, the enactment of intra-action between sciences and arts. Carolyn?
On to the next slide. Thank you, Laura. Great. So transdisciplinarity, Petrie states that transdisciplinarity is a practice that transgresses and transcends disciplinary boundaries. It's a driving force towards an integration of knowledge into a new meaningful whole, and therefore has the chance to respond to these new demands and imperatives. And he characterises transdisciplinarity as problem-focused, based in real-world problems. It's about evolving methodologies, which are iterative, reflective and responsive, and it's about deep collaboration. And that's not to dismiss disciplinary thinking, but rather to recognise that disciplinary metaphors, languages and concepts structure our experiences, and therefore to decouple these languages, to allow different metaphors and concepts, is to allow an opening up to view and experience the same phenomena in different ways. And Perry refers to this as pluriversality, or having a surplus of meanings, allowing us to respond to the complex changing world and bring it into our own experiences, recognising that disciplines are constantly reconfigured and are constantly intertwining. Next slide, please, Lara. Thank you. So in the 3 projects we're about to share, we endeavour to show the power of arts and sciences teaching together, not in an additive or cumulative way, but instead in this kind of swirling dialectic as a different way of making with each other. So as you'll see when we talk about them, these creative inquiries are really truly transdisciplinary. The maths wouldn't work without the art, the music wouldn't sound without the body matter entanglements, and the biology wouldn't work without the plant's own aesthetics. And all 3 projects engender different practices in and across those kind of interrelationships between science and arts, where there's an ontological stance of attentionality to what is happening, what is emerging, and vulnerability, being vulnerable and attentive to our own vulnerabilities within those material relationships. So where we're democratically allowing ourselves and others to make with in these entanglements. So in my own project, it was a PhD project with pre-service music teachers. We explored improvisation, not limiting ourselves to musical frames of reference, but instead creating a space where different disciplinary understandings of that term could meet and mingle. So it brought together theatre improv, improvisation in the natural world, improvisation in relation to early years material play, as well as music. But it wasn't an adding to our musical understanding. This wasn't music plus theatre, plus nature, plus early years. Instead, it was the mingling of all of them together. It was a making with languages, images, bodies and materials between and across these disciplines. And that really led us to some significant changes or transformations. Firstly, it led to a critique and a remaking of assumptions about core concepts such as teacher, instrument planning. It made us re-see ourselves and our entanglements. It made us attentive to emergent ideas and how we could follow and explore them. And it forced us to recalibrate what we meant by being and becoming in these dynamic emergent relationships.
Next, thank you. So the second study, we see a diffractive reading of what was 200 drawings of the meeting of mathematics and visual arts. So letting mathematics and arts teach together. 200 children in South Africa were invited to draw their understanding of the meeting of mathematics and art. And we see so many of them, and I put these ones here. They're not exceptional. They are a sample of many that had the face, the eyes, the body of the learner in the midst, inscribed with mathematics and by mathematics on their bodies. And we see something really extraordinary, I think, for the first time. They could not isolate being a mathematician or an artist, but rather seeing themselves as the combination of both. And the young people here are not separating mathematics from art. They're thinking with the relational nature of mathematic concepts and art concepts. Next slide, please.
And in this third project, as the one I have led on, we have a group of children who are involved in creating a garden in the school grounds. This might appear as simple ideas, but it was in this process of making with, the children started to recognize that their needs were common to the plant's needs, that there's not about interspecies collaboration, but it's intraspecies, as we are connected by flows of matters, energies, and communication, a deep level between living things. So the possibility here to extend the learning space of the school is not simply a matter of giving another opportunity for children to learn about the world or about the curriculum. The world is not a resource to learn from, but it is about asking oneself, what is the world demanding of me? And it is an important question when transdisciplinary creativity is enacted, because it makes visible the lines of light, the interconnections, the interaction that enable us to live as humans as part of a shared world.
So across these 3 projects, we've given evidence of new future-making transdisciplinary ways of entangling subject disciplines, not simply as an acquisition of knowledge and skills, not of production, but of creation, of making with sciences and arts, and the potential to make a real difference to one's own life and one's community.
And with evidence provided across the 3 projects, we have given a hint of how a new form of education can be brought forward through reordering of priorities, from describing to enacting. And we invite teachers to allow time and space for such explorations and interruptions.
And finally, across all 3 projects, we evidence the conceptual elasticity that transdisciplinarity offers in a quest not to find nor seek solutions, but rather to generate new ways to think about future making and education. Thank you.
We're leaving you with some references in case you'd like to follow up on aspects of this work. Thank you for your attention.
Ha!
Oh, she's gone again. Sorry, I didn't know what to do in that moment. I was like, oh.
It was good. Improvisation is great.
You came in really well.
It makes it live.